everyone. I am going to jump right in today. I'm, of course, Dawn Marie Morris with the World Class Training Institute. This is the Leaders Lounge, the place where all leaders can come to get all of their leadership goodness, things to help them to be more productive, to be more professional, to have a greater vision for their organization, to get ideas on how to be more collaborative as a team, resolve conflict, all of those types of things. You can get nuggets of that here at the Leaders Lounge. And of course, the World Class Training Institute exists to help leaders to be their best personal and professional selves. And we do that through the delivery of leadership and professional development training programs. You can always pick up our book, World Class, at worldclasstraining.net/agape. That's worldclasstraining.net/agape. It is Unpacking Agape, the 7 languages of intentional leadership. Now, I'm going to let that continue to scroll across the screen as I get into today's content, because you all know organizational change is imminent. I don't care where you work, there is going to be some organizational change. Interestingly, as one who trains leaders and professionals over the last several months, I have seen so much organization. I specialize a lot in higher education and in K-12 environments. And in that education sector, I'm telling you, the balls are up in the air. I can just name a number of schools that I know of who have gone through leadership changes at the top. And those leadership changes affect AFFECT, the climate of the organization. And if the leaders who are brought into an organization are not careful, what they are driving in terms of change when they come in can have some negative impacts and can be counterproductive to what they are trying to achieve. So today I'm going to walk through a few of the thought processes that new leaders should have when they are thinking about the people behind the change that they are attempting to enact when they come into an organization. Because first they have to understand they're a change, and then if they're bringing changes, then it is going to cause the people with whom they are hopefully trying to help to have some feelings of an uneasiness that they might not either have anticipated or know how to handle. Our program, LeaderSHIFT, which I'm going to show right now, is a great program. It's specifically designed for newly promoted leaders or leaders who already have experience but are new to an organization, because not only does it help the teams to better understand each other, but it provides real tools for leaders to be able to, 1, align their teams around their vision. Number 2, know their team members better. You can have a whole list of great plans, great ideas, great strategies, but if you don't know who has the skill and will to pull this off, who has the temperament to be able to handle some of the things that you might be wanting to implement, then you still are going to be challenged. So they have to understand the system. So I was getting a little ahead of myself because I'm so passionate about that, getting to know your team members. You cannot just have a plan and not know who the right people are for the job. And just because they have the title does not necessarily make them the right person for the job. You need to have real conversations, know their personalities, know their triggers. So through LeaderSHIFT, you can start to know that information, thinking as a system, as a team. If I make a move over here in the finance department, or if I make a move over here in the I'm just going to say admissions department, or if I make a move in the marketing department, it is going to have a trickle down effect on the whole organization. Leaders, You've got to help your teams understand what the system is and how the communication channels are to work within that system. LeaderSHIFT is designed to help you do just that. So go to worldclasstraining.net/leadershift as we're working through this today and helping you to understand some of the challenges that your team members may be having. But again, they don't know you either, so they may not be communicating this to you. They are just, as they say in some cases, quiet quitting. They're showing up to work because the check is still going to come, but they are not operating in the way that's most effective because they have certain anxiety, certain nervousness, and that is only natural because they don't know where your head is yet. So you got to make sure that you align your teams. And again, LeaderSHIFT is the way that you can do that. So I'm going to leave that up for a moment. I'm going to hide the Unpacking Agape. Again, you can go to worldclasstraining.net. All of that's in the menu, and pick up the book too as we're talking. I said today, I'm going to go through 4 things or 4 ways or 4 possibilities that can exist for your team when you have organizational change, particularly when you as a leader are coming in and your team has been in place for a while, so they don't know you, you don't know them. They may have had another leader who they liked, or even if they didn't like them, at least they may have known them. So that unknown can be kind of challenging. So I'm going to walk through 4 things that leaders have to be careful of. And I'm going to talk briefly about how LeaderSHIFT can help and how getting to know your team members in general and having some conversations around change can help your teams. I'm going to say one more thing before I jump in. I was at another organization for years, and I heard we used to actually teach on change, leading through change. And one of the senior level leaders said this in one of our videos, and it has stood with me and stuck with me for this long. And it's probably been almost 10 years ago when I first heard it, but it was significant. And what he said was, when change happens, leaders often think it's not personal, it's business. But what we have to be mindful of is that it's always personal. So when you look at that first, the thumbnail for this particular program, where I have the balancing act that leaders have to be mindful of. Yes, a lot of times changes are made because we're trying to save money. We want to make sure that the company is in good financial position. And all of that is great, but we cannot discount the other hand. And that hand is the people. The people part has to be in order as well, in order to make sure that you're still creating revenue streams, that you're still bringing people into the organization, that you're still creating a corporate culture where people want to work there. Because guess what? If the people part of that seesaw fall off, meaning either they stop being productive or they go and find another job, you are still going to be at a negative. So when you're balancing change, you cannot just think with one of your hands. You have to think not just with the financial part, but what is the people impact and what can I do to train, to develop, to communicate, to mitigate any potential challenges that could happen on the people side that still would end up impacting the financial side. Because it's more than just hiring freezes and cutting people. It's about also, how do I get the people who either I'm keeping or the people I'm bringing on board to really be in alignment with my new vision. And that is the piece that I see a lot of leaders miss. You cannot just do this from an org chart and think everything is going to work out well. No, you've got to do the work with the people so that the bus drives in the direction that you want it to go. So let's look at this right quickly. So the first thing that I want to talk about that leaders need to think about when they are implementing change is that your team members may be experiencing a certain level of stress. Now, you can say stress. Well, everybody's stressed. I'm stressed. They're stressed. I'm stressed. Why should I care about them being stressed? Well, yes, everybody may be stressed, but as the leader, it is your job to uncover stress so that you can have real alignment around the source of the stress and then how you can, as a leader, help them work through that. So there's something called the change curve. It's the Kubler-Ross change curve, and that curve talks about the different kind of points of acceptance that a person goes through when change happens. Now, ultimately, you want to get them to the other side if you can, to the point where they are accepting the change. But there are a lot of different data points that can happen, or success points that may happen on the way to that. And ultimately, the stress could lead to the person making a decision that this particular role is no longer for them, and that's okay too. But as a leader, you want to do your job to uncover stress and pay attention to it, because this is the thing, leaders. The person might experience it and they might not say it. I'm going to say that again. They might experience it, but they might not say it. So they may be feeling stress, but they haven't come to you and said, you know what? Actually, the way you made that last change made me feel stressful. Because a lot of times at organizations, we're told to just suck it up, right? Keep it going. We got to get this work done, so just keep it going. But again, understanding that it is always personal. When change happens, people think first, what? Am I going to have a job? Am I going to be able to pay for my family? So we have to, as leaders, get beyond that, and the balancing act of, hey, this is a business decision, but hey, people are affected by that, has to come into play so that we can minimize the stress of organizational change. All right? Great. Let's look at the next one. So the next one that I'm going to talk about is one that sometimes leaders say, well, you know what? These people are just not doing what they're supposed to do. There is a productivity gap, right? So when we're thinking about productivity, it can show up a number of ways. Number one, there's that idea of, there's the new buzzword, I should say, called quiet quitting. So when people quiet quit, what does that look like? Well, they're showing up to work every day, and they may even be on time. They're sitting at their desks. When you come by, oh, hey, how you doing? But guess what? When you give them assignments, they might say, oh yeah, I'll get right on that. And then they don't do it. Or they do it to a subpar standard. Their productivity has waned because they have quiet quit. Now, this is the thing, new leaders, that you have to pay attention to. When you are thinking about productivity on your teams and making sure that everybody stays productive, that comes with good communication. Through LeaderSHIFT, we talk about knowing your teams and how to get to better know their personalities, their work style, their likes and dislikes. All of these matter if you're going to have a productive team, because a lot of times there's not a skill level that lacks. People know what to do. It's just a matter of, do they want to do it? And then if they think that their jobs might be at risk, the time that they're spending when they could have been productive might be spent looking for another job. So leaders have got to know that when you're coming in and you want to enact changes in an organization, because remember, you're already the change. When you want to enact other changes, you've got to consider the team and know that there may be some productivity concerns that happen because you're new. The other thing that you got to be careful of with the whole productivity is that some people are thinking this person doesn't even know me yet, or they don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing yet. So I can just show up and just do my thing because they don't know where I'm supposed to be. They don't know what I'm supposed to even be doing. So how do you mitigate that as a new leader? How do you maintain productivity when you're still learning and figuring out what's going on and who's supposed to be doing what? I got the answer for you at LeaderSHIFT. Come to LeaderSHIFT and I can help you with that. But you definitely need to be aware that productivity can go one way or another, and it likely wanes when a new leader comes on board. And this is the thing, at the end of the day, you as an executive level leader, especially, has to know that you're still going to be judged on your numbers because you were brought in because they thought that you could achieve a certain result. And usually that result is based on numbers. So in order to get the numbers, you got to make sure the people stay productive. All right. How we doing? Good, good. Again, I'm going to caution everyone. If you are a new leader, new to an organization, or newly promoted, and you have a brand new team, you want to align around this idea. You don't want to just go in, start enacting or implementing new changes and doing things a whole lot differently. Not that it doesn't have to happen, but you don't want to do it and leave the team behind. That is a cardinal mistake. Cardinal mistake. All righty. Next thing that I want you all to look at. So the next thing that I want leaders to consider when they are enacting change is distrust. So, leaders, you come in, you got a great resume, right? On paper, it was fantastic. The people who interviewed you just absolutely loved you, but you started the job and now you got this team. They weren't part of the interview process. They don't know anything about you. They haven't seen what your work style is. They don't know if you're there to actually terminate them now that you've come into this role. There is going to be some level of distrust. As a new leader, part of your job, in addition to maintaining or improving productivity, is to build trust and credibility. How do you build trust and credibility as a new leader? Well, it starts with showing that the people matter. When you bring people together and you have organized activities, which is another reason that LeaderSHIFT is so important, which is because not only does it help to bring the team better, but it helps to say you matter as a key component to helping drive this organizational change. I'm bringing you along on this journey, and I know that by bringing you along on this journey, we're going to be able to get it done. But let's first start by being in alignment on what the vision, the system, the emotional makeup of the team is. All of these component pieces come together to build trust, because you do not want distrust in your organization. If you have distrust in your organization, believe me, that is where you're going to have people who are either talking at the water cooler, and some leaders say they don't care, but you should care, because again, that creates a negative corporate culture, and you don't want that. If they don't trust you because they don't know you, then they could be talking to other people and saying, you know what? I don't know what's going on. This person hasn't talked to me since they got here. All I get are emails and text messages just telling me what to do. They're doling out tasks, but they haven't gotten to know me. You're not going to be successful as a leader long term if you do not take the time. And yes, it takes time to do this, but this is where you achieve ultimate success. So again, this is for new leaders, leaders who are experienced but coming into an organization, or if you're newly promoted and you're going to a new team, you want to have LeaderSHIFT. I'll even say for leaders who are promoted from within, so you went from being a peer to a leader, this is good for you as well, because now you're in charge of the group that used to be your friends that you hung out with and went to lunch with and all of this other kind of stuff. There is a shift that you have to make as a leader. So aligning your team around, hey, you know what? I'm now the person in charge. We got to do some things differently is hugely important. All righty. So that's the third thing. Distrust. Now let's go to the last one. So this is a doozy, and sometimes leaders don't think about this, but it's a big one. So I'm going to even put it big. So turnover, attrition. Excuse me. So leaders have to understand that if you do not, take a moment to get to know your teams, to align them around your vision, to build a collaborative environment, you might be subject to turnover. Now, for some leaders, that's not a bad thing. Sometimes people want to come in and they want to bring in their own teams. Let's talk about this though. Bringing in somebody new to an organization, do you know how much that costs you? It can cost you a half a year to 2 times that person's salary. So let's just use $75,000 a year as our baseline, right? So if you have turnover, it can cost you anywhere from $37,500 to $225,000. That's a double 2 times their salary, $150,000 to replace that person. So you may say, Dawn, where are those costs coming from? Because if I've lost the person, then I'm not paying their salary. Well, what you are paying for are these things. Number one, you could be paying in lost productivity. If that person was bringing in a certain dollar amount or saving you money by being in place, that money is no longer there. Money out the door. Secondly, you have to now spend money to hire another person. The higher the person was in the organization, the more it's going to cost you to replace them. Money out the door. Third thing is, once you bring the person in, do you know how long it takes for a person to really get to know their job? 6 months to 1 year. The first month of anybody on a job, it's just money that you're expending with very little to no productivity. So whatever that first month's salary is, it's probably going to be money that you're just spending out because they're not doing anything. They're going to orientations, they're meeting people, they're having one-on-ones with coffee. I've done it before, been there. Then I got the t-shirt and the shoes. I've been new to organizations and they, let's bring her on. It's part of the onboarding process. It's necessary, but these are not times when the person is actually being productive in their roles. So the more turnover you have, the more money is just going out of the door. So you want to control turnover by doing some things on the front end with the team members that you have to help them to be fruitful, successful, and enjoy the new corporate culture. The more you're able to do that, the more you're going to be able to minimize attrition or turnover on the job. Make sense? I hope so. So these are the 4 things that leaders have to be mindful of when you are either new to an organization or you're newly promoted, or again, you're newly promoted even within the same team. You have to be mindful that it is personal for the team members. It may be business for you as you are making certain changes to the organization, but for the team members, it is very personal. How are they going to continue to be able to support themselves and their families? That's the first thing people think. Is this person going to terminate me? Am I going to continue to be able to work here? Am I going to have some of the things that we just talked about? Am I going to be stressed because I don't know how this person is going to operate? Am I going to be able to trust them because I have a certain level of distrust? I don't know them. So how am I going to be able to trust them? Is this still going to be the place for me? Or am I going to be one of the persons who is a part of the turnover? And then finally, am I going to even want to continue to be productive? Because as they say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So your resume, your background, all of that does not mean a whole lot to people when they see the new person come into the organization. And especially when that new person comes in and in the first 90 days to 6 months, they making changes. They cutting stuff. They freezing stuff. We can't do what we used to do. We can't enjoy the life that we used to enjoy before this person came on. Again, not to say it's not necessary, but as a leader, you have to understand it's a delicate balancing act. It's a delicate balancing act. All right. So I hope you connect to me, worldclasstraining.net/LeaderSHIFT. Again, the LeaderSHIFT program is so amazing because number one, it helps align the team around the same vision. Number two, it helps the team to understand that even though we may be working in different departments, we are one system. How can we make sure that the system, the whole, remains greater than the sum of its parts? Number three, what are the personalities that we need to be aware of? What are the mindsets that we need to be aware of so that we can continue to work well together? And then finally, if conflict happens, how can we already understand certain people's conflict handling style so that we can communicate effectively in this new realm? So please go to worldclasstraining.net/LeaderSHIFT. That's worldclasstraining.net/LeaderSHIFT. And again, pick up our book, Unpacking Agape, the 7 Languages of Intentional Leader. Great leadership, great for leaders, because leaders have to always keep in their minds that even though you're in a position of authority, you are first a servant and you have to be a sacrificial leader in order to be successful as a great leader. All right. So thank you all so much for your time today. Please connect to me. I am happy to come out and share this program with you all. Get your team set up for this because it is it's a shift. It's a shift. And leaders, you got to make sure that you pay attention to your teams, take care of your teams. And the more you do on the front end, the more productive they will be and the more they'll enjoy being there on the back end. All right. Skill and will matter. So a lot of times people have the skill, but the will can wane if they don't think that the leader actually cares about them as much as they care about their numbers. All righty. So until next time, always remember, when you are better, we are absolutely better. Take care.